you for tuning in to the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. WDRB Media and WGIV, the soul of Charlotte. This is Marriage Matters, and I'm your host, the Marriage Coach. Make sure you tune in every Wednesday at 7:30 for tips and advice on all matters of marriage. Be sure to like us on Facebook by searching for Marriage Matters so that you can stay abreast of topics, ask questions, or comment during our interactive segment of Marriage Matters. Also, be sure to check out our website at www.ittakes2marriagecoaching.com for more information on our services. Our show sponsor for this show is It Takes Two Marriage Coaching. It Takes Two provides individual marriage coaching and group marriage retreats to couples who are looking to strengthen their marriage. Today we're going to be having a speaker in the house with us today. We're going to be talking about the topic of domestic violence. As you all know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And so we've got a wonderful speaker in the house with us today. Her name is Tiffany Michelle Brown. Since 2009, Tiffany Michelle has been inspiring, educating, and empowering women and girls through coaching, seminars, and various speaking engagements. Like many victims, Tiffany Michelle had a misconception of what love looked like. She was beaten, humiliated, put down, and experienced great pain at the hands of the one who was supposed to love her the most. Gladly, that's not where her story ended. She is the true definition of an overcomer and has used her pain to discover that joy is a temporal emotion or a feeling, but it's a choice that she gets to see the good, experience the good, and be the best person that she can be. Today, she is going to be in the studio with us, sharing her experiences and teaching us how you too can be an overcomer, and how when we have those tragedies in our lives and we found ourselves in situations that are difficult, you can still come out victorious, just as Tiffany Michelle has. Stay tuned, and we will be back shortly. Husbands, if you could turn back the hands of time, would you propose to your wife again? Wives, if you could go back to that very day, would you still say yes? Have you lost that I still do commitment, or do you need a refresher on how to keep that I still do commitment in your marriage? What better time to recommit to your spouse, rekindle the love, and remember why you fell in love than Valentine's weekend? Join us for our next I Still Do marriage retreat for Valentine's weekend in Georgia. Join us for fun and engaging activities to strengthen every marriage at every stage. Reserve your spot today, as we only take 10 couples at a time. This marriage retreat will sell out. Contact us at 704-449-6542 or contact us via our website at www.ittakes2marriagecoaching.com for more information on our next marriage retreat. Welcome back to WDRB Media and WGIV, the soul of Charlotte, and those streaming live through the free TuneIn Radio app. You're listening to Marriage Matters, and I'm your host, the Marriage Coach. If you're just tuning in, we are discussing the topic of domestic violence. As you guys are aware, this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and so we have a guest speaker in the house that's going to be really giving us some insight and sharing a little bit of her story with us of how she managed to become victorious over her situation. Make sure you tune in every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. for tips and advice on all matters of marriage. Be sure to like us on Facebook by searching for Marriage Matters so that you can stay abreast of topics, ask questions, or comment during our interactive segment of Marriage Matters. Also, be sure to check out our website at www.ittakes2marriage coaching for more information on our services. All right, we're going to jump right in here. I've got Tiffany Michelle on the line. Tiffany, are you here with me?
I am.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be on our show today. We're very excited to have you.
I'm excited to be on the show today.
Let me just start by saying, your courage and the fact that you are willing to be open and honest with us and kind of open up about your relationship means so much to me and to the listeners and many others who may be in this situation, may have already been in this situation in the past, may currently still be living in this situation. And for those folks who feel like there is no hope, and those folks who feel like there is no way for them to escape or no way for them to come out victorious on the other side of this. So your bravery and your courage inevitably is going to be helping someone else out there, another listener who's tuning in. So we do want to just, I wanted to take the opportunity just to commend you for being courageous enough to share your story with us today.
No problem. That's one of the things that I hope to do as long as I can. So
yeah,
I'm glad to be on the show and be able to share with your audience.
Awesome. So, we're just gonna jump right in. So, I wanna start off by asking you this. So, most of our listeners are married. Obviously, this is a show called Marriage Matters. So, let me start with this. How and where did you meet your ex-husband?
We actually met at church, which seems odd.
Okay.
Especially how things ended. So we met at church. He told a friend of his that he liked me and I wouldn't give him the time of day. Then he joined the church that I belonged to, and I still wouldn't give him the time of day.
Okay.
Then he got in good with some of my family members, and then he just started to be around a lot. So I think it just progressed from there.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, and a lot of people have a lot of questions about domestic violence. And so let me ask you this. Were there any red flags or, now that you look back on the situation and you reflect, were there any red flags or things that you may have overlooked that might have revealed that he was potentially going to be abusive?
Yes.
Okay.
There were always red flags. I would say the biggest thing for, I guess, your listeners to understand is I was basic controlling behavior. And, I don't want you to talk to this person. You shouldn't be friends with this person. You shouldn't go. You shouldn't wear that. It started with the basic control. And I think that's usually how the abuser will gauge how far they can go with the woman.
Gotcha. So it started off as just like controlling stuff, controlling issues that he was doing, trying to control your every move.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even during the dating, when we dated, when we were in high school when we first started to date, and it was controlling. You shouldn't have these friends. But because I didn't notice the red flags, because a lot of times women are desensitized to violence against them from a very early age. If a guy hits a girl, we go home and tell our parents, and they're like, "Oh, well, he must like you." So we're desensitized very early. So when the violence started, I thought that meant he loved me.
Gotcha.
I thought it meant he cared about me. I equated it with what I had been desensitized to believe. So, and at that point, it's really too late, because you can't undo behavior when it's gone that far.
Right. And so I'm actually glad that you spoke on that, because I think oftentimes women might, mistaken that as, oh, he's really into me because he's so concerned with what I'm wearing, because he's so concerned who I hang out with, who my friends are, how much time I'm spending with my family. He really likes me because he's overly concerned about it. So kind of looking at it from that angle, was there ever like an aha moment, or was there just like one pivotal experience that said to you, I'm in an abusive relationship?
Well, I knew very early on, like I said, I knew very early on that I was in an abusive relationship. My family told me. I knew it. It was just something I guess, was blind to. But a very pivotal moment when I knew that I had to get out, I would say was maybe 3 years into the marriage. And I was pregnant with the twins, and we got into a really big fight in which the police were called. And while I was on the phone with the police, telling them or the 911 operator, and I was telling them about what was going on, he said, if you want to tell them I did something, tell them I did this. And at that moment, he punched me square in the mouth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
The phone dropped to the floor. He proceeded to take my shirt off and locked me in. And somehow I got outside and locked me outside, and I'm naked. And the police are on their way. The neighbors are coming. And it was just a very humiliating moment. I was scared, nervous, and I was also pregnant.
Right.
So, at that moment, I knew that I had to get out.
Wow. Now, let me ask you this. How long
No,
were
I
you...
didn't at that time.
Oh, you said you didn't realize at that time?
No, I mean, I knew that I had to get out, but I still couldn't.
Okay.
I couldn't get out.
Now, how long were you married?
Oh, we were married for almost 7 years.
Okay. It's a long time. Okay.
Yeah.
So you spoke about, you were in that moment and you realized that you still couldn't get out. Even though you knew you needed to get out, you still couldn't do it. So that was actually going to be, my next question to you. I was going to ask you to tell me about an experience where you felt totally helpless. So, would you say that was a time that you were totally helpless, or was there other moments in the marriage, other moments in that relationship where you knew you needed to get out, but you didn't feel like you had the power, the help, anything to actually make it happen?
At that moment, that was one of the moments I felt helpless. Like I said, we ended up going to court. He ended up having to serve time. I was pregnant. I found out during that time that you can't get a divorce while you're pregnant. You can't be granted a divorce while you're pregnant legally. Just because of... Yes. So,
wow, okay.
That's something that disturbed me. I felt like I was stuck.
Right.
And I was going to have to wait. And that's not a good feeling for a victim. So I've already felt like I have to wait. So during that time, I'm pregnant, and I'm also emotional and vulnerable. It allows me to come back in to the picture because, I'm going to change. I'm not going to, all of that. And then ended up, 3 years later, again in the same situation. In which I was finally able to leave.
Wow. So let me ask you this. Did you have family and friends that were aware of the situation, or was it more hidden? And if they were aware, were they able to help you? And if so, what did that help look like?
Okay. So I'm sure many women can identify with this. My family was aware in the beginning. But when you decide to keep going back, it puts them in an awkward position because they know what's going on, they know what's best for you, but at the same time, you can't let go of what you have with that person. So it puts your family and your friends in an awkward position. I always like to shout out 2 of my cousins who were absolutely there for me. Without judgment, they didn't say you need to leave. They just helped me in any way they could. They helped me with children. They helped me even after we finally, actually finally left them. They helped me out so much, and that's Mary and Angela Holland. My parents knew, but there were certain times things happened, I would lie to them and say, oh, there was a big scar on my neck. And my dad asked me, well, what happened? And I told him, oh, I was cleaning out my closet and a wire hanger fell and it scratched me really bad.
Wow, okay.
So, yeah, you don't want to put them in the middle because you know if you're not ready to leave, and you don't want the judgment from your family either.
Right.
And your family's first notion is to protect you. And then if they get involved, sometimes it makes things worse for you at home. So it's a really fine line that outsiders have to walk when dealing with someone who's in a relationship where there's violence.
Wow. I mean, and just listening to you, I'm in awe. Just listening to I can't imagine the strength. And so I think a lot of times we think of domestic violence victims as weak individuals and people that aren't willing to stand up for themselves or allow themselves to be mistreated. But I'm listening to you, Tiffany, and all I could think about is the strength that it must have taken to endure it and get out in a way that you knew that you and your children would be safe. And I don't know about it from personal experience, but in my education and just from hearing from other folks like yourself, I know that there are like particular times when it's safer to leave and other times when it's extremely dangerous to leave. And so, we know that you were able to leave. So tell me, what was the deciding factor that when you realized you were going to be able to get out, or what made you finally decide to leave your husband?
Well, like I said, it took years, but I had prayed I came to a realization that this is not what I want for my life. I don't want to live in constant fear, and I don't want my children to see this and grow up and emulate this type of behavior, whether it were my daughters or my son. I didn't want my son to grow up to be an abuser, and I didn't want my daughters to grow up feeling that it was okay to be abused. So, like you said, there's a time when it seems more safe for you to leave, and there were a lot of times I contemplated, okay, I can leave, but it would mean, and I can leave safely, but it would mean I would have to leave my children behind. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to have to make a choice between my safety and the children's safety.
Right.
Or I didn't want to have to make that choice, but I just had to take courage. And one night I just decided, you know what? I don't know whose life is going to be taken tonight, because it had gotten that bad. It had gotten to the point where he had asked me to purchase a firearm just to protect the house. But I knew in the back of my mind that would be the only way that I could protect myself.
Wow.
And I didn't want that to be in the home and I be tempted to use it or he be tempted to use it, and then one of our children be left without a parent.
Right.
So one of my mom's co-workers was killed. Excuse me. They were killed in a domestic violence incident. And the same week, it was the 4th of July. And I don't know if I have time to share this part of my story, but it was actually the 3rd of July, and I had went to the hairdresser to get my hair done, and the children were at home with their father. And the whole time, he kept calling and texting, and when are you coming home? What time are you going to be home? It was just nonstop to the point where the person who was doing my hair got concerned.
Okay.
And he asked me to pick him up some White Castles on the way home, which I'm like, okay, that's not unreasonable. So when I'm leaving the salon, I asked him, because I was on the phone with him, I asked him, well, do you still need me to pick you up this White Castle?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, no, I already got it. Well, that didn't make sense to me because he had a four passenger car, and I had the SUV, and we have 5 children. So all of the children, and they were in car seats at the time.
Wow.
So they couldn't fit in the car. But I didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was driving, and the way that I was going, I would have to pass my mother's house. And there's this one light that shines really bright down, and it's after midnight. And as I'm turning into the subdivision and the light shining down, I noticed the car behind me is his.
It's your husband's car.
Yes.
Okay.
The children weren't in the car. And so immediately I knew we're going to have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have a problem when I get home.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, at that point, I hung up from him, called my mother, and I'm driving past my mom's house, and I'm just contemplating, do I go home? Do I not? Do I go home? Do I not? Where are my children? What do I do?
Right.
What can I do? I was just so conflicted. And in that moment, I had to be selfish. I had to say, you know what? My children are probably going to be okay. I don't think he's going to hurt them.
Okay.
And at that time, my dad was living 3 houses down from where we lived.
Okay.
So I called my mom, and she said, Tiffany, turn around, come here. I'll go ahead and call the police, and I'll call your dad to go to the house to get the children. So that was, and that's not the end of that story, but in that moment, I just had to have a selfish moment and say, I can't do this anymore.
Wow. So was it that moment when you decided to leave?
Yes.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay.
That was it.
Wow. So speaking of your children, did your children ever witness any of the abuse?
Yes.
Yes.
They saw it all.
Mm.
They saw it all. And there were several times the police threatened to have social services come because they weren't going to keep coming to the house
Mm-hmm.
for domestic violence disputes or issues or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there's children in this home, and they're witnessing this violence.
Right.
So I knew I had to get out for me and for the children. I didn't want my children going to foster care or being in state custody. I didn't want that for them.
Right.
So
yeah.
At those moments, it just got really real for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, Tiffany, wake up.
Mm-hmm. And you knew it was serious. So, and just kind of wrapping up our segment for the day, and we're definitely going to have you back on next week for a part 2 because there's so much more we need to talk about and so much more I think that your story can help other victims of domestic violence. But just as a wrap up for other individuals out there that have been in this situation and currently in the mode that you're describing right now, where your children are witnessing the abuse, how do you protect your children? What advice would you give to someone listening who's experiencing this right now? Kids are watching the violence occur. Kids have seen it. Police are being called. Kids are, police are, whether the kids are seeing this. How do you protect your children in this situation? And what ways did you use or what strategies did you use to protect your kids from him?
I always try to do, if I knew that there was going to be an altercation, I always tried to make sure that it was away from the kids. So if we started in the bedroom, I would try to go to the kitchen or the living room. But I could not, honestly, I couldn't protect them from hearing everything. I couldn't protect them from waking up and seeing what was going on. I really, for my son, who's the oldest, he saw everything. And this stuff still affects him to this day. And even my girls, because they all saw a lot. So they love their father and they respect their father, but there's also a fear that's associated with it because of what they've seen. So I can't tell you enough, women, if you're listening and you're in this situation, get a friend or family member that would have a safe place for you to go if something like this is going on, and they would be willing to help you if you have children and help your children. But it doesn't, I tell every person going through any situation like this to get out as soon as possible. It never gets better. It never does. They say they'll change. They say that, we can get help, but it doesn't get better. It only gets worse, and you just never know when it's going to be a time where there's no turning back.
Right.
If you pass, who'll be there for your children? If the dad passes or the abuser passes, how do you explain that to them as well? So you just have to come to the resolve of, I'd rather be the best parent that I can be than to try to stay together and have a family that's broken and that's not showing them the best image of love and how a husband and a wife should be with each other.
Should love each other. Yeah, that is excellent advice. And again, Tiffany, Michelle, we are so grateful that you were willing to come onto our show and open up about your experience. I know that, if there are, yes, absolutely. I know that if there are people out there listening who are living this current situation, we definitely encourage you all to take Tiffany's advice. I mean, Tiffany, you are courageous. You are a survivor. You are an overcomer. And we thank God for your life. We really do. So we're don't want to end this conversation, but we've definitely got to end it for today. Listeners, if you can make sure that you join us next week as we continue this conversation with Tiffany Michelle, as she continues to educate and shed light on domestic violence, and helping anyone or any victims that may be in this situation, maybe giving you some encouraging words to keep up the fight of, keeping yourself safe and your children safe until you're in a position or a situation where you can get out. Thank you for tuning in today, and continue to tune every Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Please remember to connect with me by going to Facebook and searching for Marriage Matters WGIV. Like our page to stay abreast topics, comment, and ask us questions. Did you enjoy today's show? If you did, tell someone about it. Show us some love on our Facebook page or via email at marriagematterswgiv@gmail.com. Also, if you want to be a guest on the show or want to advertise at a great low rate, call me at 704-449-6542. I'm your host, the Marriage Coach, and you're listening to Marriage Matters on WDRB Media and WGIV, the Soul of Charlotte.